Hello my little art rattlings, it's Seke and I have been busy lately because Artfight season is closing in and by the time you're seeing this video it's probably like in one day or have even started, but anyways, we're not talking about my horrible time management because for the last 2 months I have been preparing. That's right, I've actually started early for a change. I've started preparing for Artfight way before. Does not mean that I'm actually finished, but anyways. I've kept busy updating my profile, my character reference sheets, archived some old characters, and uploaded 4 new characters this year. So today I will be showing you my process of creating these characters and giving you all a bit of an introduction to them and the world they live in. The first character I'm drawing is called Luffy. And to understand her lore a bit better, I have to start off by explaining a bit of the world. This will come in handy later as well for my other characters, because they are all living in the same universe. The story takes place on Srityat. Millions of years ago, the world was almost entirely covered by water. During this time, a giant sea-dwelling dragon species visible from space lived. But for unknown reasons, they died out. There are theories about why this might have happened, but no one knows for certain. Because of the immense energy stored inside of them, vegetation grew from their bodies, forming islands able to sustain life above water. The first creatures that ventured onto the new land absorbed the full force of that energy. They mutated and grew into giant beasts known as archdragons. But the very first dragon to walk Srityat was actually a close cousin to the archdragons. She is known as Makai, a colossal dragon with 9 heads. The Mother Dragon. She kept balance in nature and was beloved by archdragons and humans alike. But at some point, something changed in her. She started to become violent, destroying instead of protecting. She left nothing but death and destruction in her wake. All attempts to help her failed. The archdragons came together to stop her, no matter the cost. Because even though she was dear to them, they would not see their home destroyed. The battle was brutal, and in the end all archdragons except 2 were dead. The last remaining archdragons sacrificed themselves by combining their energy to split Makai's soul into 9 parts, 1 for each head. This is how the Archons, also known as heads, came to be. They are part of that split soul. The Archons don't have much memory from their time as Makai, nor do they have the ability to change into a dragon, like their cousin the Archdragons. But they do have their own abilities. Now let's get into the character. Luffy, the character I'm drawing in the background, is one of the 9 heads. The head of the North Wind. She resides in the northern part of Srityat, where the land is almost always frozen. The population there is small, and she prefers it that way. Most people that see her consider her to be a bit unnerving. Most would argue that there is just something in her eye that doesn't seem quite human. Other than that, she blends in fine with people. Most people take her for a dragonborn when they see her left arm. A dragonborn is a human with archdragons somewhere in her ancestry. This happens when an archdragon in their human form reproduces with humans. Even though she is left-handed, she often favors the right hand because her dragonic left hand is simply a lot more clumsy for anything other than hunting. Her design was one I struggled with a lot, specifically the color scheme. I ended up making like about 20 different versions of that outfit before I settled on this one. But all that time I spent figuring it out was definitely worth it in the end. I absolutely loved the results. I also did end up giving her a glove with like claws for her right hand because I imagine that she doesn't like to be left defenseless or feel weak. Since her right arm is her weakest point, the gloves help to kind of strengthen that point so that she isn't left open to being attacked. I actually ended up making 2 character sheets for Luffy because I wanted to showcase her hair as well. So she has this ability to where she can take energy from things around her, or people, plants, anything that has it, or she can give it to anything around her. It's a little bit like stealing the life out of something or giving life, sort of. When she gives away her own energy, her hair gradually becomes white the more energy she gives away. Her white hair is actually the reason I struggle so much with the color scheme in the first place, because they couldn't be too dark because then it would blend in with the brown hair, but if it was too light it would blend in with the white hair, so it was hard to find that kind of balance, but I am happy with the end result nonetheless. Luffy's personality is very free-spirited and logical. She's not really supposed to be a villain or a hero in her story. She operates more in like a gray area and mostly does things that benefits her. That doesn't mean she's gonna go bombing a city just for the sake of it, but she is definitely more likely to do morally questionable things. The next character is Ari. She lives in the capital of Ceritiat together with her father, who owns a pretty well-established blacksmith. They even have a contract with the royal army to supply them with weapons. Naturally, she's been helping out in the shop as well as in the forge since she was old enough to hold a hammer. During slow days, she began to teach herself some chemistry, which she would use to try and improve their weapons in more creative ways. During her teenage years, she found a small baby dragon in the forest, most certainly abandoned by her mother. Ari's heart felt for the little dragon, and she ended up wrapping it in her jacket and smuggled her home. It didn't take very long for her father to catch on though, but to her surprise, he wasn't mad. He simply laughed and asked for her name. The little dragon ended up becoming quite useful. She helped keep the fire in the forge going and keeping the iron heated while it was being shaped. She even became the mascot of the shop, and people would come from all over the place just to see her. One day, a curious-looking customer came into the shop. His name was Lucian, and it quickly became apparent that the little dragon had taken quite a liking to him. She jumped straight onto his shoulders and made herself comfortable around his neck. They talked for a while and decided to meet up after she finished her work. And that's where the story really takes off. Ari is definitely a breath of fresh air for Lucian. Since he had grown up mostly isolated from the outside world, he would be a bit naive at times. Ari, on the other hand, is not one to sugarcoat things. She will speak her mind. Ari is definitely one of my favorite designs I have. I absolutely adore her hair, but oh my god, does it take a long time to draw? I need to figure out an easier way to draw it. Anyways, a little fun fact about Lucian is that he is actually an archdragon, but he doesn't know that and she doesn't know that. That's kind of something they find out later during their travels. And since he is a dragon, he lives for a very long time, and so does the baby dragon that Ari has. So after Ari passes of old age, her dragon actually ends up finding Lucian and staying with him for a very long time to come. The third character is Ollie, but his full name is Olysarir. He's one of the youngest archdragons, with an age of about a 12-year-old human child. Since he is an archdragon, he is able to switch between his dragon form and his human form. He's the character on the right in the background. When I first designed him, I did it together with a different character that would be very important in his lore. However, I was not happy with how she turned out, so I will be redesigning her at some point. Ollie doesn't have a very deep lore as of yet. However, I do have a general story concept fleshed out for him. During his young days, one of the Archons and him ended up in a fight. During it, the Archon Nero shot an arrow coated in a flower known as Dragon's Bane, hitting him straight through the shoulder. This flower is extremely toxic to dragons, and is especially deadly to archdragons. It's an extremely painful poison, and the only way for him to escape that pain is to transform into his human form. But as soon as he did that, Nero cut his wings off. After that horrible battle, another archdragon found him and saved his life, but he would never regain his wings. The poison used will never completely leave his body either. Because of this, he can only transform into his dragon form for short periods of time, as it causes him great pain. When it comes to Ollie's design, his skin is light and can sometimes be described as sickly looking. He also has a condition called piebaldism, which can cause certain spots on his body to lack pigment. The way I incorporated this onto his dragon form is by making the spots without pigment lack scales as well. Instead, there is feathers growing from him, which honestly is one of my favorite parts of his design. I just adore this little guy. I will probably have to make a separate reference sheet at a later point though, because right now you can't really tell where his spots are, where he lacks pigment. But that's a future me problem. Right now it doesn't really matter. I'm also not a huge fan of the reference sheet I made for him. I think it's not my best work, so to speak. Definitely the eyes. I wanted to show his eyes, which is why I added that little section at the top, but I don't know, I don't like it. I think it looks kind of, his eyes are just kind of sunken in, and I don't like that. It looks too sick. He still has that, like, kind of childhood fat around the face and all that, and it's not really looking like that. But either way, I love his design so much. He is so, so cute. The fourth and final character I'm going to be talking about today is Novelir. But I'm thinking about renaming him to Noveles. I haven't quite decided, so for now, he's Novelir. Novelir is an archdragon in Serutiat. However, his story doesn't take place at the same time as the others. It actually takes place way in the past, like 3,000 years. And as you can see in the background, I'm actually drawing two characters. This is because these are the two characters I talked about earlier. The two archdragons that sacrificed themselves to split Makai's soul into 9 parts. But I only ended up going forward with Novelil's design because I didn't like the other design, so you can just ignore him for now. Novelia doesn't have a lot of lore right now. I do at least know kind of what he's like. He's very kind and compassionate. He's also great at remaining calm in stressful situations and make tough decisions that no one wants to make. He is also a natural reader, but he prefers more of a side role. He doesn't want the burden of being the one people look at when there is trouble. But somehow he always ends up in that situation anyways. The process of designing him was super fun because I made all of these little tiny figures where I change the clothes and the colors. It's usually how I start off my design process. Even though I absolutely adore his design, I do think it doesn't look quite too much like it's way in the past. It looks a little bit too modern, kind of. So I am considering changing his outfit in the future where that you can recognize that he's not from the same time as the others. But I do really, really love his design in general. The one part I haven't designed for him yet though in time for Artfight is his dragon form. That's gonna be something that's gonna happen like way later. Right now it's fine, he can just be his little human self. That was all the characters that I have prepared for today. I have quite a few more on my Artfight page if you want to check that out. I hope you enjoyed the video, and for those of you who will be joining Artfight this year, I hope you have a wonderful Artfight. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below, and I will see you next time. Bye!